Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Space Between podcast with myself, Steve, and Aaron and Pete. And I'd just like to kick off today with a thought about how much time do we spend worrying about what other people think?
A lot, I think. I certainly I certainly do. Yeah, that's a good one, right? Because I think we're kind of wired to do that, aren't we? We're kind of wired to I think it's part of we've talked about this before, but like being part of the crowd, being part of the tribe. Um, so you've got to be aware of what other people think in case you make a wrong decision and then you're not part of the tribe anymore and then you can't survive by yourself and blah, wiring back to thousands of years of evolution kind of thing. But yeah, I'm just thinking when you said that like at the end of the day, what someone else thinks of you, like, first of all, when you think someone thinks something, 9 times out of 10, they're not, right? They're far too engrossed in their own situation, right? But that little dialogue in your mind is typically critical and making things up about what other people you think other people think about you. Um, and and the thing is that like even if they do think about you in a negative way, that's their thought as well, and that's not based on anything real either. So at the end of the day, when you're basing your mood or your emotional state on what you think other people think, it's almost like you're dealing with something that's like a cloud. It's not really real. Does that make sense? I don't know if using the right words here to say this, but it's, you know what I mean? It's just thought interacting with thought, and that's it. There's nothing real there about it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? I don't know.
It does, yeah. I think certainly whatever anybody else thinks is their own interpretation of the world. And it's not necessarily truth. It's not necessarily really what's going on. And you hinted there about is that what they're really thinking anyway?
Mm.
Yeah.
Because uh, if you think you know for sure what they're reading, that's just a mind read. We're not all mind readers. But then we're applying our own interpretation of their interpretation,
Yeah.
and it just becomes I was going to
Oh,
say lie. It's something that's not the truth on top of not the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
something that comes up for me, like when we talk about this, when we're thinking about other people talking about us or thinking about us, my mind goes to I'm judging myself because really it's not passing anything. I don't know what you're thinking about me, Steve or Pete. Like, I don't know, but it's me judging myself for maybe not being good enough or for direction that might not be appropriate for you at the time. So I'm judging myself, and that's a projection thinking that you're thinking that thought. But really, is that just me thinking this about myself because of my worth or value? What do you think about that? Like, like not thinking that we forget that it's a judgment on us when we think about somebody else.
Yeah. And it's like it's self-judgment. And let's face it, it's not very often where you're thinking that person thinks I'm really, really cool. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Sure.
not very often that it's a very positive. Sometimes it is, which is nice. But even that isn't necessarily grounded in truth, right? There's people with big egos that think like everyone loves me, and actually people may not, probably aren't too bothered at all. If you think about how often during the day you think about like
Yeah.
other people critically, not very often. I mean, sometimes you do. Work, yeah, could sometimes get you down in that way a little bit. But if you add up the minutes of what you're thinking about, you're probably thinking about your own situation 95% of the time. You're not really thinking about other people. And yet, when we think about ourselves, that 95% is a lot of it is occupied by what we think other people think of us. If you do the math, it doesn't work out. It can't do. You know, I think that that person over there thinks about me 50% of the time. They don't. You're lucky if it's 2 or 1 or 2%, depending on your relationship with them. But our minds expand that to say, well, no, they must be thinking about me and they must be thinking about me negatively. it's again, I think it's kind of a self-protection mechanism, right? It's like, how can I, um, how can I endear myself to other people? The only way I can do that and be safe and be part of the crowd is to plan for all the negative things that might think about me and try to mitigate those things, right? And you can't. Even if someone doesn't like you can't change that. That's their opinion. And it's actually probably nothing to do with you. It's just their opinion, like ours, are based on all of the billions of experiences we've had through our lives. So no two people can ever feel or think the same way. So how
And
can you ever, how
do you
can you
think
ever
we're very
find
quick to dismiss positive feedback as well? Because we
depends on
tend to focus on the negative, don't we?
depends on who you are, Steve. Some people thrive on that. But
Well,
yeah,
can we flip the script and I think I mentioned this like a while ago. Can we change that overthinking to of negative to overthinking positive? Like, how do you do that? Because we tend to overthink the negative. So how do we shift that to overthinking the positive and bring that into our reality? And it was funny you said that, Pete, because what did you say earlier? You said something about you never really leave a conversation thinking that was a really cool conversation or that was a really good conversation. And we always come out and we're like, we always judge ourselves. Did I perform or did I show up enough? Did we never go, that was amazing. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I hit it, right? And just one of those things. But yeah, I
yeah.
don't
Oh,
know.
you, oh, you, oh, you,
How do
you,
we do
you you
that?
may leave the conversation thinking that was a great conversation, but then about 30 minutes later, your mind will start, oh, hang on. When I said that, did I insult someone when I said that? Or did they take that the wrong way? Your mind will just start to find ways of just creeping in those little things that cause critical, because it's easier to do that, isn't it? It's kind of, I don't know, it is kind of like self-protection. It's like, right, that was generally a good conversation. Now let me analyze all the things that could possibly have gone wrong so I can never do that again. So I can have another good conversation. But when you overdo that, what was generally a good conversation about an hour
Yeah.
later can have you feel depressed because your mind has torn it to shreds
It's like
unnecessarily.
it's like coming out of an interview, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
always
yeah,
think after the event, I could have answered that question better by saying this or that. I could have introduced another perspective, and all we need to do is throw that into the next podcast.
yeah.
So
Make
how
a
do, how
note
do
of
we
that,
how
and
do we stop?
if it's still current, use it for the next episode.
More material, yeah. Yeah.
So how do we stop letting those negative thoughts hijack the good interview or the good conversation where we tend to derail it?
I mean, for me, it's kind of the same kind of, I guess, technique, I guess, or understanding that I would use for anything that is, like I can think that other people have issue with me or some kind of negative, but it's nothing compared to how I feel about myself negatively. That voice inside my head that's me critiquing myself. So I use that's the same kind of understanding, which is it's just a thought and you don't have to believe it. And you can literally just let it leave. And sometimes I'll have like that thought, like I messed up that question on the interview. There is nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do to change the situation. So I'm going to literally just literally let it leave. And sometimes I'll even visualize it just leaving like a cloud because it will do you no good at all. There's no benefit in keeping hold of it at all. So I will literally relax and let that thought kind of go past me. I'm not going to push it away. I'm not going to fight it, but I'm not going to buy into it either because there's no point. I can sit there and ruminate on it for ages, but it's not going to change anything. It's just going to make me feel worse. So I choose not to. I'm not saying that works every time, especially for the highly charged thoughts. But, for the most part now that we know that they're not real,
Mhm.
then it's easier to kind of let them go. So that's what I tend to do. And it does make it easier. It does. It does make it easier. It's less charged.
I did have one thought about what the most reliable feedback is,
But
Yeah.
and that was if we're always only really observing the negative feedback that we might get from somebody else, if we're not believing the positive feedback we get from other people, and if we're only listening to our inner critic, which always tends towards the negative, then what feedback can we rely on? And on reflection, I thought, well, whenever you put something out into the world from a place of abundance, from a place of love, the feeling that you get when you do that is, for me, the most reliable source of feedback. If you put something out there in the right spirit, you'll have a good feeling about it. And before all of that negative feedback kicks in, if you can notice that feeling, that for me, I think is the most reliable feedback. You know yourself that you've done a good job. You've put something worthwhile out into the world.
yeah, that intention behind it, knowing it, even with this podcast, I was open and mentioned this to you guys at the start. I was like, I'm having a hard time sharing this because I'm worried about judgment. But really, that was just me judging me
Hmm.
in a way of why. But then you guys came through and said, this is a service. This is an opportunity for people to share in this awareness and the opportunity of growth, well-being, and mental health. You know, that is the observant side of us going, okay, this is an opportunity. This isn't about me anymore. And stepping aside from who we are to share our gifts, the wisdom that comes up, because each one of us has that wisdom. We can
Yeah.
always share it. We always have that flowing through us at some point. Sometimes
Yeah.
it just gets blocked or covered up and you become disconnected. And when we step aside and we're able to see that as a service or as an opportunity to share, somebody might be struggling with the same situation. They don't like me, but it's really my judgment. So I need to step away from my judgment so that I can just be at a live at a higher performance, a higher
Yeah.
level, flow state. And those moments there is what we really genuinely want to share. That's our authenticity, right? That's our love for what we're doing. That's our service to one another because we're allowing us to see who we really are when we don't mask or struggle and we open up to the opportunity of just being together and sharing and being in service. But those are for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I also I think back to, the times in the past where I've worried about what someone else thinks and it's turned out to not be true.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, how often versus the ones that did turn out to be exactly true? I mean, again, 90 to 10, I'd say, for me anyway. And
yeah,
then even the things that turned out to be true, the consequences of those things were nowhere near as like I messed up on the interview question, so I didn't get the job. But I went on another interview and got a better job. Or something in the past
yeah,
when you look back at those times where you really worried about what people thought, it was either turned out not to be true. I'm like, why on earth did I worry for so long when it was a misunderstanding? That happens all the time. It's common, right? Um, or, geez, okay, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but it was nowhere near as bad as I imagined it to be. That happened that 99% of the time. So just going on track record, when it happens again in the future, just think back to the past and think, most of the time, these things are not as bad as I think. It's not as bad as I thought they were. Um, and maybe that can help. Maybe that's a part. It's certainly part of my process when I go through this as well, is to say, hey, the odds are this is probably your imagination, just your mind.
and sometimes we don't see ourselves as what others see us as, if that makes, so that whole
Yeah,
view, I don't see you as you, Pete, Steve, like you see yourself differently. And when we show up in that authenticity, that's the view that people need to see.
Yeah, I kind of have this analogy of like everybody walks around with different, slightly different tinted sunglasses on.
Mhm.
So everything that everybody sees is a slightly different color than anybody else. We're all
Yeah.
snowflakes, right? There's none of us are unique. Um, so what people think about you, what you think about yourself, what you think about them, what it's it's never the same. It can't be. So how can you? There's no basis then for drawing a conclusion that like, oh, that person doesn't like me, or that I've messed up with that person, or you don't know because they look through different eyes than you do.
Yeah, I think I just heard some someone just mentioned if you could only see yourself through my view,
Yeah.
because then you would truly believe and see who you show yourself to this and how you show up in this world.
Mm.
And that's a hard thing to grasp when we're looking from this side, right? From our view. But when somebody else sees it and shares it, that comes back to the original question, can you receive that? Can you go, okay, that's cool, like, right? Yeah, I see that. Okay. But we don't. We tend to twist it, or we just miss it, and it just lets it go. We let it go over our shoulder, through our ears, and next thing you know, we're we're in the same position. We're not going, okay, I received that. How can I
Yeah.
see that view? Because we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it helps me to, with this understanding that like underneath it all, we're all kind of the same. We're all the same underneath all of the programming that we've inherited on top of all of that. Where, we talk about this kind of wisdom, this innate, this diamond that's in all of us, right? And it just gets obscured. It never gets damaged. It's never wrong. It just gets obscured, and everybody's way that it's obscured is different, right? But underneath, we're all the same. So even if someone is being negative to you, it helps sometimes to understand, okay, I get that, but that negativity is coming from what's covering up what we both have. Like we're both the same. Like, we talk about I can't see through your eyes. When you get through that layer of all of the, whatever's obscuring this inner wisdom, it is actually the same. We are
Yeah.
actually the same, you know? It's just conditioning and programming that makes us different. But underneath, at the root, we are the same, and that kind of, I don't know, kind of helps me sometimes as well when I really don't, there's someone you just don't get on with and you just clash all the time. It'll never work with that person. I just can't get on with them at all. It helps to understand that, dig a little deeper, and you are you are the same, you know.
Like disconnection, right? We're disconnected from what's really true, our heart, our love, our authenticity.
Yeah,
Sometimes our mind overrides, and that's what, like, for me, it's that disconnection. Like, I know when I'm looping and I'm like, okay, I'm looping, but I'm disconnected. How do I bring myself back? And those moments of trying to see myself from the other person's view, stepping out of my mind, right? Out of
yeah,
my thought, out of my
yeah,
thinking.
yeah. And then when you do experience that underneath that layer,
Yeah.
Steve, that's that feeling that you get, right? Of like, yeah. That feeling like in the flow, just like, yeah. Like when you're playing the guitar, or when you're taking photographs or not. It's just, yeah, I'm home. That's when
You
you
see 'em.
that's when you're
Yeah.
beneath the obscurity. And some people may get it playing guitar, some people may say watching Netflix, having a drink, whatever. But at some point you get to this place where it's like, and we all know what that feeling's like because we all have it.
Yeah.
And ironically, once you notice it, that's when you've lost it.
Yeah. You can't see it. And that's no, you can't see it. You just have to
Mm.
be it. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, but it is like people, myself included, like you can live your life. In fact, a lot of people just live their lives based on what other people think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. I mean, I went down a career path I didn't really want to go down, but just like everyone said, this you should do that. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that then.
Yeah.
I like just because of what other people, And it wasn't really critical. It was like, no, you're all good at this. You should do this. You know, you can earn money doing this. You can buy a nice house. You can, oh, I'll do that then. Okay. Is it what in retrospect, is it what I wanted to do? Probably not. But that carved out the path of my life. And it was, sometimes it was good and sometimes it was awful because I knew well, I wasn't on the right path. But everyone was nodding their agreement that this is what I should do, you know? So I think there's a lot of, most people probably have defined their lives based on the thoughts of others.
It's just a temporary detour
Yeah, I think
around some
I'm back.
roadworks.
I'm back there now, and I think it takes you get to a certain point in your life, whether it's years gone, the years tick by, or just lots of experiences, where you get to a point where it's like I am going to listen to my own wisdom and not be steered by the thoughts of others. That's hard because we're brought up that way. Teachers, parents, friends, they all have opinions. Um, so you just kind of get programmed into, my parents said I shouldn't do this, then so I won't do that, right? Some of it's good and some of it is unnecessary, and but that's how you brought up. Um, and you get to a point. I got to a point in my life where it's like, hang on, why do I need to do that? I don't need. I don't want to do that. I don't need to do that. I'm not going to do that. And then it's like, whoa, the liberation. It's like, geez, I actually have free will. I can do my own thing if I want to. And I think deep down, I think it's in human nature to want to do that. I think about, if you think about, I mean, we may have mentioned this before, but like in the movies or in books or stories, almost everyone there is some kind of hero that breaks the mold, that does something different, that doesn't do what other people think they should do. They do something different. I saw a girl walking down the street here in Ireland a couple of days ago, and she was dressed bright purple with bright purple hair, bright purple shoes, and a bright purple bag. And she was striding along, happy as Larry, and everyone's staring at her. But that's what she wanted to do. Didn't give her whatever. I won't curse, but like didn't care what other people thought at all. She's probably a lot happier than most people who are doing the 9 to 5 wearing a shirt and tie. You know.
Something
How
that
can
came to mind while you were talking about like being driven down certain career routes. I've heard a quote a few times: "You're never too far down the wrong road to turn back."
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I kind of put a different spin on that in terms of, well, no experience is wasted. Whatever experience you've had makes you the person that you are today.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not just a case of turning back, but maybe just taking a different road. So not going all the way back to where you started. It's just taking a detour
Yeah.
towards what you really want.
Is that judgment of self or what we think people are judging of us? Right? Because if we're just we thought of there as a mistake instead of mistake, then we can turn that into this is what I really want to do. This is what I really need to do. And then we can leave that judgment behind and going, okay, well, it was a mistake. Not really. Just that road. I could turn around at any time.
Yeah. I can turn off that road at any time and go in a different direction. We're all
But
where we are, but as an accumulation of all the decisions we've made in our lives,
Yeah.
and another wrong decision, another right decision makes no difference. We're still moving forward.
And Steve, like we're the ones that determine whether that's right or wrong.
Yeah,
There is no right or wrong. I've always been a big believer in, like, I look back in my life to where the things that happened where in the time I thought this is awful, this is awful, like losing a job or losing a relationship or something. This is all the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And at the time, it probably was. But when I look back, I just can't help thinking that of all of the kind of challenges that I've had in my life, I think I've always done the best I could with the resources I had. And sometimes I didn't have a lot of resources, but I never made a bad decision. I never thought I'm going to do this because it's bad for me. I'm going to do this because it's the wrong decision. I've always done the best that I could. And I think that's all we can really expect of ourselves, right? And it's kind of like a bowling ball bouncing off the guardrails of a kids bowling alley kind of thing. It's like you get to the pins eventually, but you bounce off the rails a few times, and maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point of life. Life isn't about just taking that straight run down to the pins. It's about bouncing around because life is about experiences. So so I was thinking about that today, about like looking back on life and like a lot of people have regrets about life, and I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd done that. But you can only make that decision at the time it happens. And at the time it happens, you make the best decision for yourself. That decision may be, I'm going to rob a bank, but it's still the best decision for you because maybe you have no choice and you have to do that or whatever, right? Whatever. There's other reasons why people may make, but you tend to not proactively make a bad choice in your life, typically. Um, and looking back, I'm glad that happened because it's resulted in where I am now, which is I'm in a good place. Um, if any one of those decisions turned out differently, then I may have turned out in a different place now. So it's only something you can do by looking back. You can join the dots going backwards. It's a bit harder to do going forward.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing.
It, it is. It is. And I think it's nice to look back and think um, that, this adage life is about experiences. I totally agree with that now. It's like that's what life is all about. And if you look back on your life, it is this accumulation of experiences that has been a journey. And it's great that I've gotten to this point in my life now where I can look back on it and think, yeah, that was all those bad things that happened and the good things that happened were all necessary. And I define them as good or bad.
That's the
Ending a
judgment.
relationship isn't a bad thing if it puts you onto a better relationship. Losing a job is not a bad thing if it puts you in a direction or a trajectory that you feel more peaceful at. You know what I mean? So this analogy of the roller coaster keeps coming back. It's like life is a roller. It's supposed to be. That's the point.
But we want it to be flat and comfortable,
But
right?
but,
So like
but
when
Aaron,
it gets to
isn't
that
that?
peak, it's like, oh shit.
But can you imagine? Can you imagine? Would you pay to get on a roller coaster that was just flat?
You know, right? Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no.
Right.
You
It's
wouldn't
like
enjoy,
why?
you wouldn't enjoy it. It's called a train, right? Like you wouldn't enjoy it. You wouldn't do it for fun, right? Well,
True.
some people like trains, but that's the point. Like I think that's a great analogy. It's like there are ups and there literally are ups and downs, and that's the point. That's why we're here, is to accumulate these ups and downs of life. Um, over the course of 80 years or so. That's what we do. And when you know that and you can accept that, then it's like, yeah, it's just a dip in the roller coaster. It's just, or it's a great point at the top of the roller coaster. Great. Both of them, we define it as good or bad. The universe doesn't define it as good or bad. We do. Our minds do.
Yeah, some people define those things as scary. Some people define them as exciting.
Yeah.
It's all personal perception and
Yeah.
interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah. 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 Which comes back down to the way people may think or feel about you. That again, it's all perception. There's no right or wrong, good or bad. I was going to quote Shakespeare then, but I won't. But
Yeah.
like he got it right though, right? It's just thought. Um, so like when you have this understanding that it like literally it's a big concept to get hold of, but it's so simple. It's that all of this stuff, how you feel about the past, regrets about the past, fear of the future, concern about what people think and feel about you, all thought, not real. Literally not real. You don't have to believe it. Ah, geez, it's so such a release. when you
That discernment.
when you
Yeah.
know that, you know,
Yeah.
like really know it. It's wow. Then then it all kind of connects and it all makes sense. This whole thing, everything, the whole life thing just makes sense. I know now why, what it's all about. Well, maybe not what it's all about, but why I'm here. I think I've got an idea. I'm an experienced generation machine.
You're here to enjoy the roller coaster ride.
Yeah, yeah. The universe gives you a roller coaster. Go and enjoy it, and let me know what you think. You know, and then we're the ones that say, "Whoa, this is not good. I don't want to do this. Oh, this is really good. I like this." Okay, that's your opinion. I just gave you a rail that goes up and down.
We didn't sign up for train rides. I like that one.
Sorry, I kind of went off on one there, but I feel that. I really deeply feel that, you know, when you let go and enjoy the ride, that's Steve, where you get to that place. Like it's a ride. It's just a roller coaster. That's it. You know?
That feeling that we talk about as part of this understanding and being the most reliable feedback. No
Yeah.
interpretation. There's nobody else's opinion, not even your own opinion, not your inner critic's opinion. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
Whether that's a good or bad feeling
Hmm.
is down to yourself. But that feeling is the most reliable feedback.
Because you can't generate that feel. You can,
Hmm.
I don't know if this is going to work. You can make yourself feel bad. I can conjure up memories now or outcomes of the future that make me feel really bad.
Mhm.
Um, that feeling that you're talking about, Steve, you can't self-generate that feeling. You
No,
can't force a thought that generates that feeling. So it has to come from somewhere that's not your conscious thought. It's somewhere, it's coming from somewhere deeper than that. You know, that by itself is evidence that like there's something special about that, you know? It's the absence of everything else, actually. It's our default state after
the
all
absence of thought.
after all the crap's been put on top of it,
The space between.
yeah. The space
Yeah,
between. Well done, Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah, good plug there. Space
Yeah.
between. Stay tuned.
It is
But
though.
it's
When
true.
we're in
It's
that
true.
spot. Yeah.
But
Hmm.
it's very true. It is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I mean, there are times when, you know, like you say, you know, guitar, photography, acting, looking at an amazing sunset, an amazing piece of art, listening to an amazing piece of music, whatever, where you lose everything. And it's just, where everything goes away. All the thoughts, everything goes away. That's who you are. That's who you are underneath all of that.
Mm.
And who all of us are, actually. You know, and everything else that's on top is just made up programming that's different to each one of us. So you can believe what somebody thinks about you, but it's only that programming on top. That's all it is. It's, you know, it's not based on anything real. Yeah, this was a good topic, Steve. This is a good conversation.
Very good. Hmm. Yeah.
Maybe feels like a good spot to wrap things up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got me thinking now. Yeah, no, this
That's
is really
good.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
This is where we
Next,
find the space between, right? That's where we pause and just reflect and just say, that's let our minds stop wandering and
Yeah.
thought and just
Yeah.
open up to receive and just know that, that judgment or what that person's thinking about us is really just too much layers, too many layers.
Yeah.
Come back to that space.
Yeah. But I would say to anybody, listening to this who sometimes, might feel like I did, like, beating themselves up a little bit, like, oh, I can't care too much about what people think. That's being human too. That's part of the human psyche is to do this, right? And you're not going to stop it. I probably thought 10 times today about what somebody else thought about me. Um, but I chose not to invest in it. That's the difference, I think. You have a choice, you know. Okay, gents. Okay,
Good
let's wrap
talk.
it up. Well, thanks for chatting. Anybody listening here, thanks for listening in, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with another exciting topic to talk about on the space between.
Yeah, and if anything's landed particularly with you, please let us have your comments and any questions. We'd love to read those comments, love to hear those questions and have a chance to respond to them. So just add your comments to the video, and see you in a couple of weeks.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.